Okay, good morning, Mount Vernon. This is the Real Estate Committee meeting for the city of Mount Vernon. It is March 5th, 2025. We're going to call this meeting to order. It is now 10:35 a.m. Roll call.
Controller Martin,
Here.
City Council President Brown,
Here.
online, and Assessor Vanderbilt. Here.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the January 31st meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve January 13, 2025 minute.
Second.
We probably move second. All right, ready for the roll call?
Controller Martin,
Aye.
City Council President Brown,
Aye.
Assessor Vanderbilt.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to correspondence. There's no written correspondence that we have, correct?
Correct.
All right, so moving on to public comment period.
Hi.
Ms. Esther, how are you?
How are you?
Gonna make you an honorary member of the committee.
My twist is that.
All right. How are you? Good. Okay.
See, interested in provide the advert. Second amendment, 331. Just want to know the update of that. I know you guys are moving forward.
We're moving. All right. So update on
What's the address, Miss? 331,
331
Second Avenue.
Second Avenue. All right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Andrea Laird, and I'm interested in 119 South Fourth Ave. I was having troubles utilizing the link, so I just wanted to come in today to see what the process was for putting in a bid.
119.
Yes, 119 South Fourth.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just so you know, what happens is we get all the comments and then we comment from. All right. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Jorge Ibarra, just here to follow up in property 224 North 7th Avenue.
224 North 7. Make you an honorary member of the committee, too, right? All right. All right, anybody online?
It's iPhone.
Okay, so if they, is there any online, if there's any, comment? Sorry, your name again, ma'am?
Andrea.
Andrea. Okay, if not, then we will, close the public comment period and then allow for the, committee members to kind of comment. That's it.
Good morning, everybody. I know in regards to 331 South Second, Miss Esther, 224 North 7th Avenue. I know we had spoke about that at the last meeting, not the last meeting, the prior meeting. The last meeting was canceled. In regard to the city moving forward on certain properties, about 6 properties we're looking to move forward on. I think we're going to probably have to go into executive session with that. In regards to those, or we were supposed to hear back from the corporation council.
I'm gonna give a little bit of update, but
Update,
you may
okay.
not have to go on the executive.
We might not have to. Okay, great.
Hmm.
So we are aware of your offers, and we're hoping to move this process forward sooner than later. Okay.
Council President Brown, anything?
No, I echo the sentiment. I'm hoping that from today's meeting, we'll have some movement on some of these properties.
Okay. All right, so thank you all again for coming in. I know that this has been a long process, and I understand and know that it has been somewhat, I guess, frustrating, especially for those of you that have been coming to these meetings now for several years, right? On it. So I want to acknowledge that first of all and say to you, I understand what is happening, as well as for those people that also have submitted bids. Because we originally went out and put out for bidding on this, thinking that, okay, first we start the process and make sure that people know what we have. Give people opportunity to kind of put into a bid on the process while we continue to kind of work through some stuff. As we said before, we then also got a monkey wrench in the process when we got this Supreme Court kind of decision that actually did not come down with any real clear instructions, and we didn't know how that was going to pan out. So that caused some delay as well, right? Not to mention that, as I've been saying since I became comptroller, and I recognize the fact that no matter what, people are looking at the fact that, you know, right now I own it and I get it. I own it, but I also inherited it, right? And that the process for which these properties have been foreclosed on and taken, we don't have all of the actual documents and information in the files on them. And so we've been trying to recreate all of it and search for what we need to search for to make sure that we are on good footing to kind of move forward. So that also complicated kind of this process and continues to complicate the process itself. Then on top of that, as you very well know, then there were some transactions or actions that happened with the one previous comptrollers, councils around properties where there was either the reporting of a bid that had been put in, a deposit that had been made, a deposit that had been returned, all of that. So there's been a lot of this going on where we've been researching, finding out kind of who actually won a bid, won it at auction, who, got the property at an auction, started a contract. The contract didn't get fully executed, or got it on a bid because they came in and bid it with the committee, and it may have gotten approved at the committee, but did not get approved at the city council level. But yet there's a deposit in, right? All of this is what has been going on. So we finally got through most of that. And then got to the point where we said, let's look at the properties where, one, we know that we have actually some people that are actually occupying. And so let's start with those properties first. And the folks that actually, where we also have had some interaction where there may have been a contract that did not get fully executed. There may have been a deposit that had been paid or returned, whatever the case may be. Let's pull those together. That's how we got to these 6 properties to say, okay, so here, these are the priority ones for us to kind of get through and try to walk through this process to make sure that we are doing the process right. Right. So last meeting, we basically said that, okay, so now we got through the Supreme Court understanding, and now we know that honestly, that even that the properties that we were acquired or may have been acquired by the city long enough, a long time before this decision, and it may not apply to these properties, right? So we finally got to that place where we understand, and even if it does, then we know what we need to do. So that kind of got pushed away. So it was now a matter of determining, as a part of that process, is to determine exactly what was the amount of money that the city actually foreclosed the properties on. And then also making sure that we have, based upon the law, an understanding of what the fair market value of the property is, because the law says we have an obligation to get the fair market value. And then and only under other circumstances is there is some reasonable kind of exception to that rule. All right. So we have now all that information. So now the next step was to determine, okay, so what do we need to make sure that we have completed in order to then make the recommendation to the city council for the sale of the property. And one of those things is that we have to make sure that we have a clear understanding of the title, right, to the property, right? And having a clear title, a clear understanding of what the status of the title is for that. And that's where we are now. So now what we're doing is we're going through each one of these properties, working with the law department and searching and doing basically title searches to see what the status of the title are on them, right? And then that will help us to make a determination on when we can now say to the city council, here's our recommendation for the bids that we have received on it, right? So where we are, everybody want to ask where we are right now? Right now, what we're doing with these properties, we're starting with these properties, is doing basically this title searches kind of on them. And then that will make the determination for what our next step is with these. This will then be the same process for all of the properties that we have, right? So once we're basically, I'm going to use this word, we're basically piloting these to determine what the process is going to be for all of them that we have, right? And I recognize that it has been a very long and arduous kind of process on it, but it's necessary because what we don't want to happen is what has happened before, right? The city years ago basically sold a property and then ended up in court around it because there was an issue with the title and notice and all that. And what we don't want to do is to sell somebody a property and then have them caught up in a legal matter because we did not do our due diligence around the title piece of it. Okay. Actually, all of the properties except for Miss Esther that you talked about, the two properties that both of you talked about are on the priority or are part of the priority list, right? Next phase definitely will be the one on First Ave. Okay. So that's kind of where we are. So while it's not necessarily outstanding news for you all, right? It's the next step forward. So we know exactly what we are doing. Committee, any question that you have about that? Because some of that I just said to y'all is probably new to you because I just got it this morning. No?
I have a question, Chair. The law department is starting to title search these 6 properties. Do we know the time period when they'll have that completed?
I don't. We'd have to ask the corporation counsel. I mean, it all depends. And it all depends on the complexity of it, right? Again, the challenge that the frustration for me, aside from being now, I guess, the chair of this committee, frustration for me as a comptroller is that I'm looking at the processes that the foreclosure of these properties has undertaken. And I'm just trying to really get my full understanding of what all of the steps, right? And following, tracking back through. What complicates it for me is that when I get information from individuals who say to me, well, I had submitted this and I paid this. And then I got to now, and I have no record of it unless I get it from them. And then when I get it from them, I got to go make sure that actually we have record of it. And then in some cases, I find that there's a record of that there was a return of what may have been a deposit. In other cases, there was not a return and the deposit was there, right? On this, but then we got then I find that there may not have been a contract. All right. But there've been a recommendation that came from, and it may have come from the committee, but in some cases it was something that may have come directly from an elected official, the comptroller at the time, or something like this. So that's why it has been very frustrating and difficult for me to try to get my arms around it. And all of this is a legal process, right? And what I don't want to end up being accused of is violating the legal process, and somebody who may come after me say, I'm the one that messed up this process, right? So I'm trying to be as prudent as I can, even though I recognize the urgency to get these properties back on the tax roll, right? But I also don't want to do it at the expense of the taxpayers by doing something and then they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees in court.
Comptroller or chair, the title searches are being done in-house or are we using a vendor to complete them?
my question, my next follow.
I think what we're doing, I think we're starting in-house because what I understood from the corporation council was that one, that if we do it externally just first, then they end up coming back to us, asking us for, if we have certain documents or whatever. So the step process was to have the folks that are in-house start doing that now, try to gather as much information as they can about these properties, and then at such point that we need, or if we need to do that externally, we will. But because the records are so in such a bad situation, we could be throwing good money after bad to go out and get an external entity to do it before we actually get all of our stuff together to make sure that we have the information. Like, for example, we looking at one of the properties on the list, right? And going through it. And then come to find out that what we understood based upon what's in the system as the date in which the property had been foreclosed on is not actually the date. When I finally went back and looked at it, it actually was 2 years prior to that date that originally we thought it was, because that's the documents that we had, right? And then looking at it, it's now the matter of trying to figure out, okay, so, can we confirm that we actually served the person who owned the property on it, right? Because there appears to be a title issue with this property, multiple title issues with this property. So now when there's multiple title issues with the property, then the question is right, what do we do? So we just want to make sure that it's best for us to do due diligence to make sure that we have all of the right information with the titles and everything. Right?
Madam Tessa, I cut you off. I'll let you finish your questions.
No, I'm done. I'm done.
No, that was gonna be my follow-up question, if we were doing it in-house or we were gonna hire an outside vendor, but the chair makes, absolutely 100%. That's for us to start it in-house because, the law department should have, the records of when the properties were served. So we'll be able to cross-reference with that. So at least we can at least do the groundwork before we pass it into an outside vendor if need be.
Right.
Okay.
My other question is, does it make sense to get started on all the properties since this is going to be the process as opposed to just doing the initial 6? To have the law department start pulling these, and if we do need to use an external vendor, that they can do some of the initial legwork and then we can pass it off if necessary. So that
I'm sorry if I made the impression that as it pertains to that we were just gonna be doing the 6. No, what we basically are doing, we're gonna be going through all of them because all of it has to be done. I was just saying that the goal for this committee to try to make some decisions on soon is the 6 properties that we identified. But no, all of them we're gonna need to make sure we have all of that information, because if we don't, then we may find ourselves right back here again.
And do we anticipate, and I know it's not based on you, right? It's on the law department's capacity, but do we anticipate by the next meeting that we would have some way to move forward, or is it going to take more than a month?
I have no idea. I can't answer that question. All right. Okay. Is there anything else? Any other new business? Not for this committee. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, it's not for this committee. So
All right, I have one more question. I'm just full of thoughts. Bids are officially cut off, or people?
yes,
Okay. Thank you.
yes. Yes, it makes no sense for us to start to continue to take bids on this until we actually make sure we have the clear path forward. But otherwise, it just is going to make it more frustrating for that person as well as and complicated for my office.
Got it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Roll call.
Controller Martin.
Aye.
President Brown.
Aye.
Assessor Vanderpool, aye. Number 54.
Thank you.